It's time for your low country real estate market update. It's the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Brian is one of the top 1% real estate agents in Charleston. Find him online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. Now, broadcasting from the WTMA studios, here's your host, Brian Beatty.
Good morning. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. Thank you for joining me this morning. I'm your host, Brian Beatty, and on this show, we talk all things real estate. I take national, regional, and local news and tell you how it affects you so that you can make some informed real estate decisions, whether you're planning on buying or selling a home, investing in some property, or just staying where you are and staying up to date with the local market here. Feel free to reach out to me at any point during this program. Probably the best thing to do is send me a text, 843-345-1273, and I'll call you right back. Or if you'd like, you can visit my website, www.listingsincharleston.com, listingsincharleston.com. And there you can do several things. You can search the MLS for all properties for sale in the Tri-County area. You can take a look at some testimonials from past clients. You can click on the Sellers tab and learn more about what I do to market properties for sale. And, of course, you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. So this show, I've got a lot planned for us, and I want to jump right into it. The annual report on the Charleston area housing market, which is put out by the Charleston Trident Association of Realtors, came out earlier this week. And I wanted to share that information with you. I think, for the past 3 weeks now, I've been talking what happened in 2013 and what's going to happen in 2014. And I think it's important that we take kind of the national numbers and national sentiment and then boil that down to, of course, how that's going to affect you here in the Low Country. So I'm going to just jump right in. But again, if at any point during the show I breeze over something and you want more information on it, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, www.listingsincharleston.com. So 2013, great year for the Charleston Tri-County area. And basically, here's what happened. Closed sales were up. Days on market were down. The percentage of the list price received at sale is trending higher. Sellers even managed to post a gain in some areas. There are some areas of our market that I'm going to talk about that had notable improvement, some as much as 20%. And we'll get into that in just a little bit, but let's focus on a few areas first. Let's first talk about sales. With sales, low mortgage rates, more employment opportunities, rising stock market mixed with rising prices, rising rents, shrinking inventory, really just created a sense of empowerment among buyers and really a sense of urgency. For those people that were in the market in 2013, especially in the spring and summer months and some of the fall months, there were plenty of situations where we were in multiple offers. I had one listing that received, I think it was 19 offers. Unbelievable. We're not necessarily in a market where that's normal, but nonetheless, I think we're trending a little bit that way. I don't think we're going to have such a busy market as we did last year in terms of the appreciation that we saw in pricing. I think it's going to be a more modest gain this year. But with regard to sales, buyers made 21.1% more purchases in 2013 than they did in 2012. And we finished out the year at 12,744 closings. That's the highest number of closings we've had in the past 5 years. So that's certainly a positive thing. When we look at listings, inventory levels fell throughout most of the year, and we finished the year in 2013 at a 12.3% difference between 2013 and 2012 as far as the number of listings on the market. On average, buyers had 5,411 properties to choose from, active listings. And think about this, back when our market was really just in the tank, 09 through, or before that, but I think in 2009, we had like 12,000 listings on the market at one point in time. So we have certainly reduced from that. And I think here's what happened. We recovered so quickly that sellers were kind of slow to act. They didn't get their property on the market, or we hadn't had enough of a price gain to where they had equity in their home. There were still, and still are, plenty of sellers out there that do not have the ability to sell their home yet because they can't sell it for what they bought it for back in 06, 07, 08. I want to talk next segment in greater detail about distressed properties, but I wanted to hit that just really quickly now while I'm going over the entire market and going through this annual report. And I'll say this first: market conditions vary, of course, by segment, even as much as by neighborhood. Consumers are purchasing fewer distressed properties because there are less of them. Taking a step back, there are fewer foreclosure delinquencies, or fewer mortgage delinquencies, excuse me. And one of the major sources of downward price pressure in recent years came by way of distressed properties that sold at a discount to traditional listings. So you had short sale, foreclosure, regular resale. Obviously, the short sales and the foreclosures were priced less because they wanted to move them. But there are so few on the market now that, assuming that they are in equal condition, okay? We're not talking about the foreclosures that need to be totally gutted and rehabbed. But if you have a short sale that's going up against the regular resale, the pricing is going to be very similar. And again, we're going to get into that in the next segment. But let's finish with pricing. In 2014, I would say that we should expect prices and sales to continue their ascent upward, but at a more tempered pace. I think the Case-Shiller Index said that we have a 6.8% increase in pricing expected for 2014, and I think we'll be close to that in some markets. There are plenty of markets in the Tri-County area that I think are going to lag behind that, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But in 2013, we closed 8.7% above the median price compared to 2012. So the median sales price for the Tri-County area was $206,530. So I wanted to share a few interesting things with you, broken up by market. Again, we're talking the annual housing report that comes from the Charleston Trident Association of Realtors. And if you have any questions about your specific area, you want to know what's going on in your neighborhood, you live in James Island or Mount Pleasant or Hollywood, doesn't matter. Give me a call, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, listingsincharleston.com. So here's some interesting facts. The top 5 areas that had an increase in listings in 2013 compared to 2012 was number 1, Wando Cainhoy. That's the big area near Clements Ferry Road. They had almost a 40% increase in new listings. James Island had a 30% increase in new listings. Daniel Island had a 24% increase in new listings. And Upper Mount Pleasant had a 20% increase in new listings. If we look at sales, where are the sales trending right now? Where are the top 5 areas for sales improvement in 2013? Number 1 again was Wando Cainhoy. They had a 53% increase in sales compared to 2012. Rural Berkeley County, they had a 50% increase. James Island had a 34% increase in sales compared to 2012. Upper Mount Pleasant, their sales were up 30% and their pricing shot way up. It's just a lack of inventory. More buyers, less properties. If we look at sales, again, we were just talking pending sales, so that's all the stuff under contract. Closed sales, the number 1 area was rural Berkeley County again. They had a 55% increase in sales, then Wando, then Upper Mount Pleasant, then James Island. But lastly, let's talk about inventory. The top 5 areas that had a change in homes for sale in 2013 versus 2012 was Upper Charleston Peninsula. They had a 21% decrease in inventory. West Ashley, they had a 24% increase in inventory. Hanahan had a 25% increase in inventory. And Kiowa and Seabrook, they had a 36% decrease in inventory. So interesting stuff. Let's talk pricing for a minute in some of these different areas, and then we're going to switch to something else. The median sales price, the top 5 areas that saw the highest growth in median pricing was number 1, St. George. They had a 46.5% increase in their median sales price. Then North Charleston at a 26.5% increase in median sales price, followed by Upper Peninsula, Charleston, 20%, and then Wando Cainhoy at 18.5%, and then rural Berkeley County at 18.2%. And then lastly, let's look at the days on market, because a lot of people have their home on the market, or they're in flux right now. They've had it on the market. They're deciding whether they want to put it on the market. And I'm going to talk about that toward the end of my show, because we've had some interesting questions about people that want to sell their home but just haven't been able to. So let's look at days on market really quickly. The top 5 areas that are selling property fastest are, or had the biggest decrease in days on market, most positive trend, was number 1, Sullivan's Island. Their properties are selling 13% faster. Looking at the other side of that, Upper Peninsula Charleston, that was the biggest decrease. Their homes are selling 35.2% less fast. So interesting statistics there. I tell you what, I'm going to jump off. I'm going to take a quick break. When I come back, I want to talk about the investor market because I noted that the distress market is changing. It has changed. And I want to talk about if you're an investor, you're still thinking about investing in real estate, it's not too late, but I want to give you some information so that you can navigate through that market. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. Again, call me at 843-345-1273 or visit my website, www.listingsincharleston.com. Take a short break. We'll be right back.
More stimulating talk on real estate matters with Brian Beatty next on 1250 WTMA. Expert news and views on the Lowcountry real estate scene. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. So when I left, I gave you a kind of a synopsis, a very broad synopsis on the Charleston housing market. We have an annual report that comes out that's provided to us by the Charleston Trident Association of Realtors. And I'm realizing that there is just so much information in this report that I can't do it justice in a 10 or even a 40-minute segment. There's just too much information, and it goes in too many different directions. It's highly applicable to people that are considering buying or selling a home or just want to get a grasp on the market. So here's what I'm going to do. If you text me or you go to my website, my number is 843-345-1273. Or if you go on my website, www.listingsincharleston.com, and just input your information, I will send you this report. Very interesting report. So when we left, we were talking about distress sales. We were talking about the short sale and foreclosure market. And we had something very interesting happen in 2013 here locally. It seems to me like it was really the first year that I noticed, at least, where we had investors coming from not just Charlotte and Atlanta and Virginia, but really all over the world. I sold a property to somebody from Poland. I sold someone a home from South Africa. I've sold several properties to people from Hawaii. And it's just interesting that people are coming from all over the world to invest in Charleston. These were people that bought second homes or investment properties. And for the first time, we really had a large focus in Charleston from institutional investors, a grouping of investors that put together their money and buy 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 homes at once, or they have an appetite for as much as 100 homes a month. Do we have the inventory to appease that 100 homes a month? I'd say it's tough. It depends on what their return on investment requirements are. That's going to be different for everybody. But I wanted to dive into the distressed market because people love short sales and foreclosures. When we talk to buyers, almost every time they say, we'd consider a short sale or a foreclosure. And then I, of course, get into how that market actually looks. So let me tell you what happened in 2013 in the distressed market. We had about a 20% decrease in closings year over year. I broke it down by market. And this was interesting. I actually did this morning before coming in. I looked at what's on the market and then what's under contract. So we have an idea right now of what the distress market looks like. So if you look at short sales right now in the Tri-County area, out of 5,500 homes, 295 of them are short sales, actively for sale in all areas, in all price ranges. That's a little over a 5% representation of the active listings in our market. And then I looked at the foreclosure market. And right now we have about 170 foreclosures, REOs, on the market. That's 3% of our total inventory. So if you look at what's on the market right now, about 8.5% of what's out there is short sale or foreclosure related. And that's the easiest way to measure the distress market. As far as what's under contract, we look at the short sales. 361 short sales are under contract right now. By now, I'm hopeful that you all know that a short sale does not have anything to do with time. A short sale is when you purchase a property for less than the amount owed on the property, less than the mortgage. Right now, 361 properties under contract out of 5,500 total listings. That's a 6.5% representation of our total market. And then the foreclosures, there are 110 under contract right now. That's out of 5,500. That's 2%. So if you look at what's on the market right now, active and contingent, we've got about 12% of that being short sales and about 5% of that being foreclosures. So about 17% total. So if you're an investor, where are you going to find the properties to invest in? Obviously we're looking for the best deals possible. And over the past several years, those have been short sales and foreclosures. There were a ton of them. And I wanted to take a step back for a minute. I wanted to talk about what the foreclosure market looks like overall nationwide. In December, we hit a 6-year low in terms of foreclosures nationwide. And in terms of filings in 2013, we had a 26% decrease in foreclosure filings compared to 2012. So, and let me put this into perspective for you. 1 in every 96 homes in 2013 reported at least one foreclosure filing. So that's the national foreclosure rate has dropped to 1.04%. The historic norm is about 1%. So we're very close to just being historically average in terms of foreclosure filings. In 2010, by the way, the national foreclosure rate was 2.23%. And I know that 2.23% doesn't sound like a huge number out of 100, but in 2010, we reported 2.9 million foreclosure filings. In 2013, we had 440,000. And then if you look at despite the improving market, the foreclosure threat really continues to hang over the heads of a lot of homeowners. What we saw in 2013 was a nice increase in pricing, which allowed sellers to get back in the market and actually sell. They've, plenty of sellers have been on and off the market for years. I look at the pricing history on some of these properties when I go on a listing presentation, and you see that it's been on and off the market since 2006. No joke. And they've come down in price from, and this is not a drastic example, but I've seen plenty where they were at $1.6 million. Now they're at $650,000, $700,000. And I won't get into that. I know that they're probably kicking themselves. Instead of listing for 1.75, had they listed at 1.6, they may have sold it, but hindsight's 2020. But in December, 9.3 million properties, or roughly 20% of all homes nationwide, were reported to be deeply underwater. And deeply underwater means 25%, at least 25% or more underwater. So very interesting stuff there. So I told you that the distress market locally is about 18% of what's out there. In terms of what's active, it's about 12%. We've got 6% of that being under contract right now. So I also wanted to talk about the strategies that investors have been using. There's two. You either buy it and you flip it, or you buy it and you hold it. So historically, what have been the return on investments in Charleston? The investors that I work with, when they buy and they hold something, and when I look at properties that I purchase, because I own investment property as well, I look for at least a minimum of a 10% cash-on-cash return on my investment. So what does that mean? That means if I buy a property and I'm invested $100,000, I want to make $10,000 a year net on that property. So I have to back out the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, the potential vacancy loss, and a few other things there. But at the sake of making it not complicated, if I invest $100,000, I want $10,000 a year in my pocket. So what are we seeing right now from the buy and hold arena? I don't think that rents are going up as drastically as they were in 2012 and 2013. We've created some programs that allow people that have been foreclosed on or that did a short sale to re-enter the market in as quickly as 12 months after those occurred. So those would-be tenants are now buyers, which of course is going to help our recovery. But we've also got increases in pricing increases in mortgage rates and a decrease, of course, in the overall inventory to choose from. So short sales and foreclosures, if they're in good condition, they're just not going to sell at a price attractive enough for you to go in there and, put in the customary floors, kitchens, counters, roof, HVAC, so on and so forth, flip it, and make 25, 30% on your money. You used to be able to do that left and right, and I had great success in working with investors to do that. And don't get me wrong, they're still out there. It's just that the options are fewer now. So where else can you find these properties? If the short sales and the foreclosures are competing fairly aggressively with the resale market, and there's not a lot of a margin there, where else do you go? You've got estate sales. You have corporate relocations. You have government short sales. It's called HAP. But then you've also got all the people out there that just have to sell their home. There's no classification that they're entered into the MLS for. There's no classification for divorce or job loss or illness, but they're out there every day. So as investors that are continuously entering the market, don't be too discouraged by what I'm saying in terms of the reduction in availability of short sales and foreclosures. They're still out there, and we work with several investors regularly as clients, and we're selling them property. They're making money. We're making money. It's everybody's happy. It's just that they're harder to find, and I think that in order to find them, you need to work with an agent that understands first and foremost what's going on with short sales and foreclosures in our market, but that also has access to properties that are good deals on a regular basis. So if that's something you're interested in, I have worked with dozens, probably hundreds of investors over the past several years. I understand it well. I also invest in real estate. So if that's something I can help you with, please give me a call, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, www.listingsincharleston.com. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Have a real estate question? Ask Brian Beatty. Send him an email, lowcountryhomesales@gmail.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show is on 1250 WTMA. 1250 WTMA. Now, here's more of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker, 1250 WTMA. I'm your host, Brian Beatty. Thank you for joining me this morning. If you're just tuning in, the past two segments, we talked about the annual report on the Charleston area housing market. We went through that in detail. We only dedicated 10 minutes to it, so if you're just joining us or if you've been listening for the past half hour and you'd like that report, please contact me. My number is 843-345-1273, or you can go to my website, www.listingsincharleston.com, and on there you can search the MLS. You can read testimonials from past clients. You can click on the Sellers tab. You can see a list of properties that I've sold, and of course you can learn more about my 59-day home sale guarantee. So go on there and send me a message if you'd like to get a copy of the annual report on the Charleston area housing market, which was just put out this week by the Charleston Trident Association of Realtors, based on all the MLS data that we as realtors record. I am a realtor during the week, been in the top 1% of agents here since 2009. So if you have any interest in buying or selling a home this year, again, please contact me, and I'd love to help you with that. 843-345-1273 or listingsincharleston.com. On this show, I've talked a lot about how to prepare your home for sale, or if you're a buyer, how to prepare yourself to enter the market, what to look for. And what I'm realizing is that I've not talked yet about what happens when you put a home under contract, either as a buyer or as a seller. And if you're a first-time seller or a first-time buyer, it might be nice to just get a little bit of a refresher. So I'm going to take you through the process, okay? So we've listed your home for sale. A buyer's made you an offer, and you've accepted that offer. So now the clock is ticking for you to complete the due diligence and for the buyer to complete their due diligence. So what is customary for a buyer to do on their end? They're going to get a home inspection. If they are getting a mortgage, they're going to get an appraisal. Of course, they also have to get a mortgage, and there is a lengthy process associated with that. You've got to hire an attorney. You've got to do a title search to make sure there are no liens on the property. And then depending upon how the contract was written, either you or the seller is going to pay for something called a CL 100. That is a termite and moisture inspection. So let's talk about more specifically what can go wrong throughout these processes and how we can fix it. So common occurrence, we inspect the property. We realize that there are issues that have to be dealt with that are either a requirement of the lender if you're getting an FHA or a VA loan, or of you personally in order for you to feel safe and comfortable moving into that property. So you hire an inspector, they walk through the property, they go underneath it, they go through it, they go on top of it, check every nook and cranny, make sure that everything is up to par. If it's not, and there are items that you'd like to have addressed, you have a certain amount of time contractually to present the seller with that list of repairs. It's called a repair addendum. And on that addendum, you need to cite not only the issue, but how it's going to be fixed and by whom and within what period of time. So just citing that there is a problem could get you into trouble. Saying something like HVAC is not working. Well, that doesn't give the seller any direction on how to fix it. It's just citing the problem. So make sure that when you're creating your repair addendum that there are specific bullet points that state this is the problem, this is how I want it fixed, this is when I want it fixed by, this is who I want it fixed by. So getting through the repair addendum, 9 times out of 10, what I coach my buyers to do, and I realize this is a little unorthodox, but it works, and if it works just one time, then it's worth it. But I put everything on the inspection report on that repair addendum. And I realize that sounds a little ridiculous, especially to the sellers that receive that repair addendum, because they have a bullet point of 30-something things that need to be fixed. But what I love is that every once in a while, I'll get a seller to say, okay, and they fix everything. And it's awesome because the buyer gets to move into a house, everything on that repair addendum has been taken care of, and they're not going to fix it unless you ask. So I love those success stories because obviously the buyers are moving in with peace of mind that they're going to be able to stay there and they're not going to have to worry about making immediate fixes, taking more money out of their pocket to fix things. That is unusual. Most of the time, the seller says, well, I'm not going to do this, and this. What's important to you on this repair addendum? And those are the things that I'm going to choose to address. Or I'm going to give you $5,000 toward repairs. And you can spend that money how you'd like, where you'd like on those repairs. Or they can say, thank you for sending me that repair addendum, but I choose to do nothing. And they are perfectly within their rights to do that. So let's say the seller says, you know what, I'm not going to fix anything on this list, and I'm going to sell it as is. Well, you as the buyer can choose to accept that. Or if you've written your contract correctly and you've submitted that repair addendum within the amount of time stipulated on your contract, then you can say, sorry, that doesn't work for me. You back out of the contract and you get your earnest money back. So it really just depends on how serious the items are. I'm working with a seller right now, and I got to tell you, I feel so bad for them. They had their home on and off the market for several years with a few different agents. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to name the address. I'm not going to tell you anything about this property other than this specific issue. The realtor suggested they convert a half bath into a whole bath. Well, the seller did that so that they could have their home appeal to more buyers. Realtor suggested a contractor. The contractor went out there, moved things around, and created a full bathroom. Property ended up not selling. I got the listing, took it. We are under contract right now. And the home inspector goes out there to take a look at the property. And they said, Brian, have you taken a look at this inspection report? I say, no. They send it over to me. The contractor that did the work in converting the half bathroom to a full bathroom didn't connect any of the plumbing. So when you go to use the bathroom, it's dumping into the crawl space. Seller got totally taken advantage of. And I realize this is a bit off topic, but perhaps it would be within a seller's best interest to do a pre-listing inspection. I've talked about this on my program several times, getting yourself to a point where you are understanding of the issues that your home has so that you can price your home accordingly, or at least realize what the challenges might be to closing on the property so that we're not blindsided. So that's the inspection process. A lot can go wrong there. It can make or break a deal. I have found that most of the time sellers and buyers are reasonable on this topic, and at the end of the day, we get the deal done. Let's also talk about an appraisal. We are in a market now where last year pricing was up well over 10%, in some areas as much as 20%. And what you need to realize about pricing in a real estate market is that by the time you close on a property, that offer was made a month to 2 months ago. So closings that you see, the pricing for that was pricing that the buyer felt was accurate as much as 2 months ago. But when they were looking at making an offer, they were looking at what sold 6 months prior to that. So let's say we had a closing in August. It could be that they're using information from as far back as January. And when you have a market that has increased in price 20%, there's 10% right there that is not being accounted for. Hopefully you follow me on that. But appraisals are very tricky because the appraiser has to use information based on what's sold in and around your area similar to your home over the past 6 months. So again, if we look at a closing that took place in July of last year, and they're looking at information at that point in time that was from January, January to January, we've had a 20% increase in pricing. The point is that appraisals are difficult. They're difficult in this market, and when I list a home and I sell it for top dollar, and we have an appraiser that says, Brian, I'm having trouble justifying the price that you sold it for, which is, it's kind of like it's a pat on the back saying, hey, good job, you sold it for more than anything else is selling for. I just can't justify it. So what do? For me as an agent, I go there, I talk to the appraiser, I walk them through the house, give them my opinion of why I think this home is more valuable. We look at the certain things that the seller has done, and most of the time that works. Some of the time it doesn't. So what happens when an appraisal comes in for less than the contracted price? You can either agree that you are not going to drop your price and the buyer's going to have to make up that difference. The price can meet somewhere in the middle. It's a negotiations point. Or the seller can agree to sell it for the appraised value, because at the end of the day, the bank is not going to allow you to close on the property for more than it appraised for, because they're using the real estate as collateral for giving you the loan. So those are the big things that we're dealing with right now: home inspections and appraisals. There's a lot more that I could talk about on that topic. And if you've been in a situation where you had your home under contract and something didn't work out and you're considering selling it now, and you want to work with an agent that is experienced, that can get you through those issues, give me a call, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, www.listingsincharleston.com. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA, where it continues here in just a few moments. We'll be right back.
Find Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. The Brian Beatty Real Estate Show continues next on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. The Big Talker. WTMA. You're listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA and WTMA.com.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining me. This is the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show here on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA. For those of you just joining us, we talked first about the annual report on the Charleston area housing market, which came out earlier this month by the Charleston Trident Association of Realtors. And that talks about market stats, talks about all the different markets, talks about new listings, under contract listings, pricing, inventory, distressed market, new construction market. It really has a big snapshot of what our market locally in the Tri-County area looks like. And I've been saying throughout the show that if you'd like a copy of that, I'm more than happy to email it to you. Feel free to call me at 843-345-1273, or visit my website, www.listingsincharleston.com. I wanted to say thank you to my Facebook friends. If you're not a friend with me on Facebook, connect with me. It's just go to Brian Beatty, Brian Beatty. I posted something on my Facebook page and I said, what should I talk about this week on the radio? And a big shout out to some of my friends who were so kind to provide me with some options. I thought I'd read out my top three. Number 3, 12 steps to keep lions off your front lawn. That was a nice one. Number 2, the rise and fall of the Roman Empire. And then number 1, probably my favorite, 8 first date mistakes. So if you have a topic that you'd like for me to talk about here on the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show, please feel free to give me a call, 843-345-1273, or go to my website, listingsincharleston.com. And when you go onto that website, there will be a little window that pops up that allows you to connect with me immediately, and that goes straight to my cell phone. So input something there, although I am assuming you guys want me to stick to real estate as my topic of expertise here. So what I did want to do is I do have some good questions that have been posed to me over the past week or so that I thought might make for some interesting material on the show. So I'm going to just dive into those questions. Before I do that, though, again, if you want a copy of that annual report on the Charleston area housing market, it has information on your specific area. So again, feel free to give me a call or visit my website. And then we were also talking about investment properties. If you're an investor, I have worked with probably over 100 investors to purchase properties over the past several years. I understand it very well. I'm an investor myself. I'm from a family of investors. And if that's something that you're considering, you want to increase your cash flow, you want to use it as a retirement plan, you just want to flip some properties and make some quick money, it's becoming harder, but it's still possible. So reach out to me, and I'll help you through that. 843-345-1273. So here's a question that I got, and it's something that I'm pretty passionate about. I think those of you that have listened to my show know that first and foremost, I'm a top agent. I've been in the top 1% of agents on our market since 2009, and I work with a lot of sellers. And this question was posed to me that said, is it advisable to interview more than one realtor from the same brokerage? Goes on to say, we interviewed a realtor and he was not a good match for us. He's a part-time realtor at a very large brokerage. Is it advisable to interview another realtor from the same brokerage, or is this not recommended? We are listing our home and appreciate any advice you can offer. Well, let me explain something to you. Every realtor is in business for themselves. They run their own business the way they see fit. When I sit down with sellers and I present my marketing plan, the first thing I talk about is the difference between what my company does and what other companies do. And frankly, that is a very generic approach to marketing because most companies do the same thing. Every agent's going to put your house on the MLS. Every agent's going to put a sign on your front yard, and your house is going to go on their company's website. But you know what? It goes on every company's website because that information, that data is pushed from the MLS to dozens, if not hundreds, if not thousands of websites. So if your home is listed with Keller Williams, it's going to go on Carolina One's website. If it's listed with RE/MAX, it's going to go on some other random, Holy City Properties website. I don't even know if that's a real company or not, but all of that information is shared from the MLS. So when you sit down and you look at what a company does, it's pretty broad-based. My opinion is that when you're working with a realtor to sell your home, you're working with that specific realtor and their specific marketing plan. So I'll sit down with them and I'll take them through what I do to market properties for sale. I'm not going to say everything that I do on the air because, let's face it, there's a lot of copycats out there. And although what I do is highly customized and expensive to me to do because I spend a ton of money in marketing, it's not wildly different. It's not, catastrophically different from anything else that any other agent does. It's just that what I do works well. And my average days on market in 2013 was 56 days. And I sold my properties for 95.5% of list price from the time I took the listing until the time it closed. So I think it's a great idea if you have someone that's qualified to interview them, regardless of whether or not they're at the same company. Keller Williams, as an example, has 200 agents. I'm one of those agents. I'm the top performing agent with the team in my company, and our office is the top producing office in the Tri-County area. But what I do to market properties is wildly different from what newer or inexperienced agents do, or experienced agents that just choose not to spend money in marketing. I mean, call me if you have an interest in putting your house on the market, or at least seeing a copy of my marketing plan, and it breaks it down. It shows you what I do, what I pay for out of pocket, and the results that come from it. That website is www.listingsincharleston.com. Click on the Sellers tab, and you'll see information on. It's a fairly generic outline of what I do to market properties, but I also have information there on my 59-day home sale guarantee. So reach out to me through that, or call me 843-345-1273. So I hope that kind of sheds a little bit of light on what agents do. Again, I sit down with them. I say, here's what the company does. Here's what I do. And every agent's going to be different. So let's move on. I had another question that said, I'm selling my house and was wondering how important it is to have a realtor that's close to me. Well, here in the Tri-County area, you really never get more than an hour away from any particular part in Charleston. You could go from Awendaw to, I don't know, St. George, and it probably wouldn't take you more than an hour, hour and a half. But I think the day and age of hiring a real estate agent that lives in your neighborhood, that lives in your area, is fading fast. And I say that, and I partly subscribe to that. I think it is important that, let's say that I live in Mount Pleasant, my office is in Mount Pleasant. I understand that market very well because I'm in it every day, and I can sell the benefits of living in that area to a prospective buyer when I'm marketing a seller's home for sale. But that doesn't mean that I can't go to Somerville, where I've sold dozens and dozens of properties, and do the exact same thing. I don't need to live there to understand the market and to understand how to sell properties in that area. And I'll tell you that this day and age, where you can go on a website like Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.com, and you have all of those statistics and information right there on one page, you can figure out, not just information on the house, but what Zillow thinks it worth, and what schools are nearby, and what their ratings are, and what their walk score is, depending upon the safety in the area. We have information that's wildly available to all of us. And as real estate agents, we are moving away from being information providers like we used to be back when the MLS was a big notebook where people had to print it off every day and carry it with them. That was the MLS. There was no internet for it. To now, where we are more service providers. And believe me, there is a difference between an experienced agent and an inexperienced agent when it comes time to list your property, market it, sell it, and then, just as importantly, negotiate for you. We just talked last segment about getting you through the transaction. There are a lot of pitfalls, and if you're not an agent that has been through it, there's a potential there for things to fall through. And I know that when I work with other agents, of course, I'm nice and I'm professional, but at the end of the day, I represent my client, and I want to get the best deal possible. So if that means that we are a little bit hard-nosed in negotiation or whatever it is that we do, I'm a competitive person by nature. I want to win. I want my clients to feel like we've got the better deal. So that's what I'm going to do. So to answer the question about, does my realtor have to live close to me in order to list my home for sale and feel good about it? I think the answer is no. I think at the end of the day, it boils down to their experience in selling properties in that area and whether or not they have a track record and a marketing plan that can produce results. So I want to make this a regular part of my show. I want you guys to send me questions. Next week, I will be in the studio. We will be taking questions live. So stay tuned for that, and please mark that on your calendar, Saturday at 8 a.m. If you have a question and you want to talk with somebody about it, please feel free to give us a call. And if you'd like to contact me about your real estate issues and goals, my number again, 843-345-1273, or visit my website, www.listingsincharleston.com. You've been listening to the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show. Thank you very much. Enjoy your weekend, and catch me here again next week on the Big Talker 1250 WTMA.
Join us for another edition of the Brian Beatty Real Estate Show next Saturday morning from 8 till 9. Contact Brian Beatty online at listingsincharleston.com. That's listingsincharleston.com. Or call him at 843-345-1273. 843-345-1273.